sufficiently analyze the relationship between Japanese management and labor management relations. Therefore, I'd like to begin with an introduction to study of Japanese management. In general, Japanese management consists of lifetime employment in which university and high school graduates are hired and basically work until retirement, so-called Nenki system, Japanese type of seniority system, in which age has a strong influence on wage determination and promotion, and company-wide labor union organized in each company. This type of Japanese management is practice generally seen among regular employees of big business. However, it is a norm that can also be seen in small and medium-sized enterprise. According to Ujihara, norms such as a lifetime employment and seniority system existed since before World War II, but with the formation of labor union, they became the rules that governed the union management relation. Japanese management assumed the existence of company-wide unions. Japanese management was formed based on the shared normative consciousness of workers and managers. Such consciousness is often explained by Japanese behavior characteristics such as ie, family, and mura, village community. Hazama explained the relationship between workers and management in a company in terms of the relationship between parents and children in a family. Iwata also extracts collectivism and ideology of feminism and seeks the foundation of collectivism in company in mura village. According to Kobayashi, this kind of normative consciousness is an ideology of management that mitigate conflict between labor and management, and it is also incorporated in management technique. Iwao emphasized the emperor system as a foundation of such ideology. In any case, it is necessary to confirm that Japanese management is based on a community consciousness against a backdrop of conflict, labor and management. In general, it is said that personnel management was formed in the United States in the 1920s when mass production systems were introduced. The introduction of mass production not only dismantled the old skilled work and created a larger number of jobs based on machinery system, but also served as a base for consolidating the management function that had been held by skilled workers and foremen up to that time into the managerial function. Mass production was a technological base for the formation of personnel management. Have you ever seen this film? This movie depicts the situation in Rome right after World War II. After World War II, Japan was just like Italy. Akira Kurosawa's One Wonderful Sunday depicts the situation in Japan. With the shortage of daily commodity and food, the people had to protect their own livelihood, and to do so, they formed the labor unions, starting with factories. Against the background of the U.S. military encouragement to form labor unions, the formation of unions progressed rapidly with the organization rate reaching 55%. Workers' demand were for security of livelihood and job security, which led to struggle against layoff and demand for living wages. Of particular note is a wage concept offered by labor union in the electronic industry, which demands that wage be determined by age in order to guarantee livelihood. The labor union movement retreated due to the intervention of aligned forces and companies, but workers' demand were accepted in the form of seniority-based wages and lifetime employment. Based on these changes in union management relations, mass production methods were introduced in the late 1950s. The introduction of new machines dismantled existing jobs and created new ones. These jobs were filled by new graduates from high school and junior high school. In Japan, the absence of craft unions and hiring new graduates with no work experience means that little progress was made in job control by labor unions. Instead, labor union demand were directed to wage and job security. Of course, the introduction of mass production made existing workers necessary. These workers were trained and transferred to new positions within the firm, or transferred to related firms, and there were few large-scale layoffs. Workers who were transferred or started their own business contributed to the development of mass production system in the big business as subcontractors. In Japan, where there were few job controls, the use of flexible labor under mass production was possible. And this was supported by Japanese management. And Japanese economy has been in slump since the early 1990s, and the companies had attracted global attention could no longer accept substantial growth. What contributed to corporate growth in this environment was earning from the source besides the core business, since the stock investment. This table shows the change in corporate earnings. Blue one is operating profit, and red one is profit from stock holdings. Let us company had that had attractive. You consider the implication of the increase of earning from financial activities. In the past, focus of investment has been on capital investment. This is investment. Blue one is planet and equipment, but red one is investment for equities. In recent years, however, investment in equity has been increasing in place of capital investment. The most important of these is investment in overseas subsidiaries. In fact, Japanese big banks are now taking equity stakes in banks in Asian countries. Why then is investment in equities increasing? One reason is increase in foreign investors. From 1995 to 2015, the shareholding of foreign corporations tripled, while the share of dividends paid to shareholder in value added increased from 1.5% in 1955 to 6.7% in 2016. Yes, okay. On the other hand, the ratio of personal expenses decreased from 62.1% in 1995 to 58.9% in 2016. One of the factors contributing declining in the labor cost rate in the increase in the number of irregular workers. Along with this increase in the number of irregular workers, a job-based wage system has been introduced. This management method was introduced along with restructuring against the backdrop of the finalization of the economy and the introduction of information technology. Moreover, restructuring is being carried out in the midst of labor shortage, which is why women and other workers are being actively utilized. The organization and the utilization of diverse human resource, which is producing along with the financialization of the economy, are resulting in a reorganization of management methods. There, the shift from traditional production-based economic structure to a finance-derived economic structure is creating a new way of management workers. This can be seen as a shift from personnel management to human resource management. In order to clarify the specific structure of human resource management, it will be necessary to clarify the new profit structure. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot. Good afternoon. I'm Arcangelo MARRONE, an assistant professor at Nihon University. Today, I'm glad to present our last paper written with Vincenzo PONTRELLI, PhD student at Nihon University. The title of this paper is A Weighted Approach to Human Capital Disclosure through Integrated Report. This work is divided in 6 parts: introduction, literature review, hypothesis, methodology, results, and conclusion. So, the traditional economy has paved the way to a new one based on knowledge in which attention has been shifted to social, environmental, and sustainability issues. The classic resources are no longer considered capable of providing a sustainable, competitive advantage over time, as they can be easily imitated and acquired. The focus is shifted to intangible resources that are valuable, rare, limited, and difficult to replicate. These resources, labeled intellectual capital, are currently considered decisive for the success of the company in the long term. Vincenzo, 1997, provided three dimensions of IC: external, human, and internal. Among these, AC is gaining importance both in academics and society. The relevance of HC for organizations has been addressed in various studies. According to Edvison and Sullivan, 1996, and Fitz and J, 2000, HC favors capital accumulation. According to Nelson and Fields, 1966, HC represents a growth driver for both firms and society. So, financial reporting models fail to adequately capture the value of these resources. According to Eccles et al., 2001, due to difficulty of financial disclosure to collect information about IC, stakeholders have asked corporations to share more information about them. In recent years, new models and frameworks have been developed and proposed to communicate clear information and results on intangibles, but the integrated report stands out. So, companies both willing adopt the framework and choose the social, environmental, and governance information to be disclosed in order to communicate their commitment to the value creation process. According to you et al., 2009, companies have to carry out a careful cost-benefit analysis before establishing the nature and extent for the information that has to be disclosed. Although several studies have been carried out on the disclosure of IC within the IR in recent years, only a few focused on HC, and only Raimo et al. 2020 and Vitolla et al. 2020 have studied it through an econometric analysis. So, the aim of this study is twofold. The first, extend the literature by providing, for the first time in literature, a weighted score for HC disclosure through IR. The second, analyze the impact of sub-determinants on the human capital disclosure level. So, thanks you for your attention, and I invite Vincenzo Pontrelli to continue with the presentation.
Thank you, Angelo, for your valuable introduction. Please, Vincenzo.
So, good afternoon to everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you. And thank you, Professor Marrone, for your brief introduction that paved the way for our speech today. Let's go a little bit more deeply inside our work, just talking about the literature review. We build up this review in 3 main steps. First of all, we analyzed the disclosure of intellectual capital with a particular focus on human capital. Previous studies have emphasized how, in general, intellectual capital are expressed more in a qualitative way than a quantitative one, and how there is a huge lack of data about intellectual capital. Moreover, among the 3 dimensions of intellectual capital, the human one is the less evaluated into and communicated into the several reports. Going on with the several conceptualization of human capital, it's clear how previous studies look at human capital as a sum of employee capabilities and skills. And so, instead of this several conceptualization of human capital, the level of information provided into firms' documents and later in academical studies is quite scarce. The third step of our review, literature review, is focused on the determinants that pave the way for higher level of non-financial disclosure. We can underline how, among the several characteristics of firms, the size of the firm, the age, but also the leverage and board characteristics are often related in a positive way with the level of disclosure of the firms. So, using also the agency theory, we developed 5 hypotheses in our studies. The first one that want to analyze how the human capital disclosure level is positively influenced by the size. Later then, we focus on the board characteristics, analyzing the influence of board size, positive influence of board size, board diversity, board independence, and our last hypothesis want to analyze the positive influence of the leverage of the firm. To test our 5 hypotheses, we developed a sample of 107 firms. Initially, this sample was larger, but the data provided by Bloomberg that we used to collect the information about our independent variable let the sample basically drop down to 107. It's important to notify how we analyze integrated reported that has been provided by the firms in 2019. So our study is a cross-sectional studies. The relevant key of innovation of our studies is the dependent variable, the human capital disclosure level. It has been calculated through a content analysis, and the items, the 14 items searched into the documents came from, obviously, the literature. Also to try to avoid the subjectivity of this analysis. But according to what done before by Yao et al. In other reports, we provide for the first time a weighted approach to the integrated report. Here I go very, very fast, but these are a little details of the information that we search into the integrated report. It's important that the score the total score range from 0 to 42, because every item could range from 0 to 3, depending on the quality of the information provided into the report. The variable that we used to test the hypothesis are The dependent one is the disclosure level provided by the firm. So, like independent, we use the size, the board characteristics like board size, board diversity, and board independence, then the leverage ratio and age and firm location in line with the previous literature are used like control variables. Just, sorry, fast, skip the descriptive variables, just note how the level of human capital disclosure is it's quite scarce. As said before, it could range from 0 to 42, so the level provided is low by the firms. There are no problem of multicollinearity from the analysis conducted, and this is the results of our OLS analysis. Going in a qualitative description, the first hypothesis is not supported by the findings. This is how the relationship is significant, but the impact is negative. So the larger firms provide a low level of disclosure. This is also have some basis on the literature that explain how for larger firms there are higher costs to disclose information about non-financial items. Later, the second hypothesis is supported, is positive and significant, so the board sides have a positive impact on the level of disclosure. The diversity of the board is not supported. This is, we have to look to our descriptive statistics because the level of women into the board of sample firms is quite scarce. We have a minimum of 0, so one or more than one board have no women inside. Lastly, the board variable and hypothesis is supported. In fact, the independence of the board has a positive impact on the level of disclosure. We know that independent member doesn't have interest in financial aspect of the firm, so they can disclose more information because are less worried about the consequence of the disclosure. The same of the board diversity is for the leverage ratio. In fact, the level of ratio of the sampled firms is quite scarce, so the hypothesis is not supported. Going to the conclusion, the studies indicate as the company size has a positive but has a significant but negative influence on the level of disclosure, and how the board size and the board independence have a significant and positive impact. Less, the board diversity and the leverage have no significant impact. Talking about the control variable, the age has a negative, a significant impact, and the location, so firms that is headquartered in Europe disclose more information. Going to the implication, this study extends the literature by providing for the first time a weighted score and supporting the previous studies conducted by Raimo et al. And Vitolla et al. Lastly, several implications for managerial that know that to have higher quality of disclosure have to invest into larger board and board with a higher level of independence. For me, that's all, so thank you for the attention.
Thank you very much, Vincenzo. Thank you for your remarkable analysis, econometric analysis based on the relationship between some firm characteristics with particular reference to corporate governance mechanism and disclosure of human capital. Thank you, Vincenzo. Thank you, Angelo.
Thank you.
Let's move on to the last presentation with Dr. RESULI that presents a paper entitled the impact of employee education on sustainable development strategies in the EU.
Thank you very much.
Over to you.
My name is Vebina RESULI. I'm a PhD student at University. And the title of my article is The Impact of Employee Education on... I'm sorry. Okay. The impact of employee education on sustainable development strategy in the EU. And the notion of sustainability development, when we are talking about employee, is very bizarre. Because why I'm saying this is bizarre, because we as a lecturer or as a professor, we are learning the new manager that you have to be a good manager, you have to be to bring good profit to the company, you have to be flexible, excellent, you have to be everything. And in organizational behavior, we tell the manager that you have to tell to the employee that they are your family. Instead, the company is doing the other side around. Why I'm saying this? Because regarding the Maslow pyramid of needs, we are letting our employee on the basic one. We are not letting them succeed in the meaning to emerge from the basic needs. So in one good company, we need that the employee to be educated or to elevate them from the basic needs. If their focus is on the basic needs, they cannot think about sustainability development or education about sustainability development. They are thinking more on how much profit this company had to be, how much profit will the company have to be, how much I will earn, and not regarding the climate change or natural resources and the to preserve our lifestyle or our environment. And company have to take part in sustainability development programs to encourage the employee to be more or to think more green. If they are learning to be more green, they will develop new eco product, they will develop more eco decision for their company. It will be more efficiency, and we will have green companies. But these initiatives have to be from the inside company. They have to change their culture or their way of viewing the process of sustainability development. And regarding the background information of the article, environment, one of the main in the EU, there are the policy promotion for social inclusion and job creating in the EU. And those development of environment policy will help the company to create the positive impact and more inclusion of the job creation in the EU. By saying this, because if we use the new environmental technology, we'll have more development. And if we are thinking about in more development region, if we don't preserve our environment, we don't have anything to develop. And the main agenda of the European Commission for the Agenda 2030 was the coverage and reduce of inequality, and this was one of the improvements. And the quality and the environment of many of the organization benefits are to preserve by those development or by thinking that it will be more green, they will highly consider their consumers. By helping this, they will give a new conscience of their consumers and to not to emerge from, when I said before, Maslow pyramid of needs. So they will be more concerned of buying eco product, and they will even the company will have a lot of profit. And this is one of the show that show the environment, society, and economy, and how to preserve the natural resources, and what education of social or equal opportunity we have to have if we have a green company. And justification of the study, the positive impact of education. Have awareness training by important and to develop a new organization culture, because we need to change, the company need to change their culture, their point of view, if they want to change the way of production, or the way of constructing, the way of working. And if they change their culture, they will change even their point of view regarding the education of employee. And this is the main concern for many companies. And the research objectives of the article is to assess the link between the empowerment and employee in achieving sustainability goals, to understand the impact of education on employee on sustainability goals. And the research questions are to what is the impact of education on employee and sustainability goals in the EU, and how employee and environment are improving sustainability and employment. The global environment is important in economic growth. The business is very important in economic growth. But if we start to have conscience of what we are buying and not to be abusive, and we will help even to get a new direction of the company. And regarding we as employee, as I said before, the employee need to be trained to be more efficient regarding the green or eco product or new technology. They need to be used to be green. And the Sustainability Development Goals in 2015 had their 6 goals to ensuring availability of sustainability management of water. And one of the interesting statistics that I have seen on the article were that the rising from 30% in 1970 to 70% in 1990 and further improvement. So to have more clean water, because we know and we have the conscience that many businesses, they are not cleaning our water. They are all their production is in our water, so we don't have clean water for drinking. And businesses also affect the environment and society by implying business needs and their strategy. The methodology of the article was more regarding epistemology research approach. And as awareness of Vitolla facility to approach is the firm regarding the sustainability methods. And one of my main thing is to, regarding EU countries and develop one, if they don't preserve the nature, they don't have anything to develop. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This paper concludes the presentation section, and now we are going to have some Q&A time. Let's start with the first paper of Professor HIRASAWA. Are there any questions for Professor HIRASAWA? Perfect.
I have a question regarding the employee, because you have a lifelong employment, And I'm not in the, my question is not economic one, is regarding the psychological well-being and efficiency in the workplace. You have statistics of that, how they live or how they perceive their lifelong work.
You want to ask sociological or environmental aspect of lifetime employment? It's very difficult. Especially, what is the main point is, for example.
Because we happen that sometimes that we work for 5 years in one company and we say that it's enough. I want to change. I want to do something else. That it's a time in our life that as a human being we are not stable. We are not measuring our decisions making. So what will be if someone wakes up one day and say, I'm not doing a manager anymore in this company. I want to do it. Want to do something else.
And in Japan, normally first hired to university graduate or high school graduate, and first they work at the lowest level, and 5 or 3 years later, another position he worked. This is a satisfaction for workers in Japan. Therefore, promotion is very important for Japanese workers. Is it?
Yeah, I understand. They give it.
Yes, yes. So, depend on promotion, wage is rising. Therefore, workers satisfied their job. Is this okay?
Are there any questions? I have a question for you, Professor HIRASAWA. In your opinion, what are the strengths and the weaknesses of applying Japanese business model to other contexts and other countries, with particular reference to human resource management?
Weakness of Japanese management. It's okay?
Yes.
Yes.
The application in other countries.
Yes.
What are the strengths and weaknesses?
Yes, maybe production system is Japan is relatively strong, but in nowadays production so profit gaining model is changing now. Therefore, Japanese management system is not good for this business model, I think.
Is it possible the application in other countries, in the United States?
Yeah, production system a little bit already introduced in American companies or European companies.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's move on to the second paper, the paper of Dr. Pontrelli and Professor MARRONE. Are there any questions? Thank you, Nicola.
Funziona? Sì, ok. Okay, thank you, Vincenzo. I really appreciated your work. I have some questions, two questions or maybe two curiosities. The first one is as a methodological nature. I have seen that you performed the manual content analysis and you developed a disclosure index, but we know that all content analysis techniques have problems related to subjectivity. How do you think to solve these problems? Maybe I'm thinking about the calculation or the determination of Krippendorf alpha or something else.
Thank you, Nicola. Yes, obviously, as we know, a content analysis has several limitations. Among them, the subjectivity of the analysis. It's a huge problem for a content analysis. This is a draft version of the analysis, but we use some technique to investigate if the content analysis, for example, the Cronbach alpha, it's a good analysis. So we use this technique to certify our analysis and our results. Also, to this, we try to base our analysis in literature to search the same items, only to avoid the subjectivity of the analysis.
Okay, I have seen that you appreciated and cited our works, and I'm so glad for this. And I have seen that you used agency theory to frame the content of your work. But I think that agency theory is the best solution to frame the impact of corporate governance variables or something related to the ownership structure or something else. But I have seen that you developed the hypothesis related to the firm size or other financial variables. Have you think to use the other theoretical frameworks to frame this relationship or not? Maybe stakeholder theory or legitimacy theory?
Yes, both the theory that you said, the stakeholder and the legitimacy theory could help us to perform better our theoretical framework. Maybe we will focus on the stakeholder theory, for example, also because at our days, the connection between stakeholder theory and corporate social responsibility is deeply analyzed in literature, so we can certify our analysis and using a stakeholder theory to develop several hypotheses and more focused on the aim of the study.
Okay. Are there other questions? There are no questions. Let's move to the third paper. Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I have appreciated your work and I have signed 2 questions. And the first is, what are the links between the employee training and the employee education? And the second one is, are synergy possible between employee training and employee education?
Yes, there is a synergy, and if the company decide, first of all, the company have to change the way of doing business regarding the culture one, because it's part of their culture, will be part of their culture regarding the training. If the company decide to train, to give more education their employee to develop new technology or new production, to the lead of to perceive the environment, to preserve the way of living in the environment. That, yes. But even if the EU, the Agenda 2030, they made the 6 steps, is difficult. And this time is becoming more difficult to preserve the nature and the climate and not to earn as much as they want. So the company have to decide to be profitable and not to preserve the nature, or to train the employee to be more efficiency and yeah, to be green.
Okay, thank you.
Are there other questions?
Okay. Thank you for your presentation, very interesting. So I take a point during that. And in your opinion, what's the role of values, moral, ethical principle on employee education in regards of sustainable development?
The company have to have all that to train the employee. They have to be focused on their ethical implication. So if the company have ethical production, will be even regarding their education about their employee. Instead, we have, because now it's we have a difficult time, all of us, because of the war in Ukraine and everything that is compacting on economic way. And the businesses, they're saying that we want to do our businesses. They don't want to train employee, and they are not seen more ethical and to be green or to preserve the environmental. So they say they want to do money. Even this is the reason why I compare the Maslow pyramid of need. They are letting the employee on their basic needs, and the employee, they say we have to earn to live, or we have to rise ourselves, our conscience, and to be more efficient.
Thank you. I have a question for you. I want to change the perspective. In your opinion, what is the impact of employer education on employee behaviors? Sì, ci mette un po' di tempo.
During the research, I've seen that even the university concern is regarding the training of the employee, but we are not taking the employment and to train them how to be efficient. So it's the lack. Maybe it's a gap. Maybe we as a university, we have to train them before and to give them a new perspective of doing business, and after that they will allow, or they will change the point of view to train their employee.
Thank you very much. We are at the end of this session, and all the presentation, all the paper were very interesting, and I think they can offer some inputs to improve the international scientific debate on human resource management, with particular reference to sustainability and innovation. I want to end this session with I can quote an important manager by saying, "The firms work with people's leg, and for this reason, firms can be really innovative and sustainable if the workers, employee, and in general people are managed in an innovative and sustainable way." Thank you so much for your kind attention, and all the best with the continuation of this conference. Good afternoon.
Oxford Dialogue Conference. It's a great pleasure for me to be here, to be the chair of this session, and so I will be very interested in understanding and following the research that will be shared. This session is titled New Management Paradigms for Sustainability and Innovation. And surely the three papers that we will have the possibility to follow in this presentation will provide us interesting insight about the new scenarios related to the sustainability and innovation that, of course, are the main focuses of this international conference. So we can start by following the order of this of our program, and I will call Karolina SALLAKU, that is she's author with Professor Angeloantonio RUSSO of a paper titled The Research Project Exploring Social Media Washing and Its Impact on Corporate Social Responsibility. This is an information for all the speakers. Each paper has almost 20 minutes. Of course, 22, 23, it will be the same. But I would like to ask you to remain in this time in order to be concentrated, to have all the attention by the audience, and also to reserve a particular time for the questioning that I think it will be very useful for the advancement of the research and also for understanding, identifying new scenarios for the future development of your activity. Okay? I will go there and I will follow with pleasure your presentation. Karolina, please.
Welcome to the presentation of this paper called Exploring Social Media Washing and Its Impact on CSR. I am Karolina SALLAKU and the co-author is Professor Angeloantonio RUSSO. First of all, the agenda. This paper was structured in four main parts. There is an introduction, a theoretical background, then the methodology and the results will be discussed, and at the end, some discussions and conclusions will follow. First of all, our research agenda is about the aim, the main objective of this research is to explore social media washing as a novel form of misleading behavior shifted on the social media context. In fact, this new concept will be examined on the TikTok, which is a micro-video platform sharing that, according to GWI report of 2022, has reported 32% of growth rate. This concept will be analyzed within the co-creation process, and it also will be examined in its mediator role between the product co-creation and corporate social responsibility relationship. The methodology of this research is based on a qualitative approach related to a case study, which is both mixed, deductive, inductive, and basically this study will lead to conceptualize this new misleading behavior that better may explain the relationship product co-creation CSR. Let's move now to the theoretical background. The social media impact and its influence lead to a series of ethical concerns. In fact, social media may generate personal addiction, privacy violations, or polarization of public opinion. But also, it has been analyzed by the authors in relation to disinformation, such as, for example, for journalism or the diffusion of fake news, or in relation to the US democratic elections and how the fake news spread has influenced these elections. Moreover, a global inventory of 2019 detected social media manipulation across 79 countries. For what concerns the brand management aspect, a conceptual framework for social media and its influence has also been examined by Genser et al. Of 2013 in terms of growing importance on how the stories of the brands are conveyed within the co-creation process between the relationship brand-consumer. Manipulation has been analyzed by a framework of Share of 2011, in particular in relation to the marketing actions and tactics. This is called the framework of the manipulative marketing tactics, and is a tool to classify the brand manipulation within 3 dimensions, which are the manipulation considered as tendency to sabotage decision making and to influence sales and profit, deception concerning false claims, omissions, or misstatements, and immoral manipulation, which is basically the tendency to use people and to influence the trust. Now, on the other hand, several misleading behaviors has already been examined by scholars. Some categories that we are going to mention here are greenwashing and gender washing. Both are considered misleading behaviors. The first one, according to a last literature review of 2020, is considered as a disinformation from a brand perspective in order to achieve positive environmental image, while gender washing is more an influence perceptions about women and girls' practices that brands employ. The gap that we have identified is that a new form of misleading action, new forms of misleading actions are emerging on social media. Let's talk about co-creation. Brands are already co-creating on social media. For example, McDonald's has created some menu from the TikTok fans that already mentioned some hacks on their video, or also Starbucks that created custom beverages from the users' tips of Facebook and Instagram. Product co-creation considered in this study is the concept of co-working with consumers in a product service design. It is based on the SD logic framework of Vargo and Lucian Var in terms of a shift represented from a consumer to a brand value co-creation. Also, online co-creation has been examined by scholars in terms of relationship management, online consumer design, innovation, or also music co-creation. The gap identified within this co-creation that it has not been analyzed, the potential negative CSR ethical perception in case of misleading acts within the co-creation on the social media. About the relationship CSR-PCC, 2 links have been identified. The first one is the link with the ethics part of the CSR. It is one of the 3 theoretical approaches of CSR in the ethical responsibility theory, or one of 4 dimensions, both with economic, philosophical, and legal. There is a link identified between co-creation and CSR in terms of consumer participation in co-creation motivated by ethics, analyzed, for example, by Martinez Cañas et al. Of 2016, or other authors that analyzed the relationship between CSR that positively relate to co-creation or the co-creation as a mediator effect between CSR and loyalty, or CSR and trust relationship. Considering all this previous research, our research questions are basically 3. The first one is, what is social media washing? The second one is product co-creation a factor that may affect the likelihood of CSR ethics? And the third one is, social media washing a mediator in the relationship product co-creation CSR? In order to respond to these research questions, the methodology and the results are now discussed. First of all, this study used a qualitative approach based on a framework analysis related to a single case study for the aim of an exploratory qualitative research which resulted appropriate for contemporary events and what research questions. In fact, the framework used is the one of Richie Spencer that identifies 5 main steps. The first one used is familiarization, so there was a selection and review of web-based sources, the assembly of case study material, the summarization of the events, and the timeline identification. Then the thematic framework was performed in order to identify the main themes that are an outcome of the previous framework analyzed to sort the information. After that, we performed an indexing, a charting, so reorganization of data in charts, and mapping and interpretation based on patterns and critical characteristics for the schematic representation. Moving to the first step, which is the familiarization, the case study analyzed is the one of Atlantic Records. Let's see in brief what is this case study. On 30 July of 2021, Gailey, which is an American Nashville-based artist, posted on TikTok songwriting ideas. Nancy Berman, TikTok profile, responded, "Can you write a breakup song using the alphabet?" The artist, after that, played ABCDEFU song. On 30 August of 2021, this song was released by Atlantic Records, and it went viral. In fact, it achieved more than 2.2 million video shares, and it was ranked at the first place on the Billboard Global ranking. On January of 2022, a TikTok profile, Daniel Swall, posted, "Did you know that you were lied to about this song?" He basically claimed that Nancy Berman was the digital marketing manager of Atlantic Records and accused the Atlantic Records to have manipulated the co-creation of the song. After this, of course, the video of Daniel Swall received more than 2.1 million likes and thousands of comments and shares. But the company confirmed that Nancy Berman profile was basically their marketing manager, but they denied, of course, the accusation. After all these events, several reactions from TikTok users arrived. Now, the second part of the framework analysis is about the thematic framework. We listed a number of questions and then organized and classified these questions on the main themes. And so 5 main themes have been identified: the co-creation, then we have manipulation, deception, and immorality, which is more connected with the framework of the marketing tactics, manipulative marketing tactics, and the last one about the ethics connected with CSR. The next step is indexing and charting. In fact, the data were reorganized and associated with the main themes. We considered the comments, we considered the main transcriptions of the events. In the last step, mapping and interpretation was performed. How did we perform these associations? Basically, we asked the questions related to the main themes, and then we responded for each theme, considering reliable sources such as from scholars or dictionaries. And also, we took in consideration the comments of TikTok users. For example, was there any co-creation? We defined co-creation as a co-working with consumers in the creation process. And since Nancy Berman replied to Gailey's request for songwriting ideas, and the artist responded to her suggestion by playing the song ABCDFU, this can be associated with the concept of co-creation. What about manipulation? Did the action affect decision-making by deception or vulnerability? Since deceptive is the act of causing someone to accept as true or valid what is false or invalid, and since TikTok users accepted the comment of Nancy Berman as true, because it was, of course, perceived as an organic content, and on the other hand, the vulnerability is connected with the capability of being physically or emotionally wounded, TikTok users may have suffered emotional harm because it is connected with high psychological distress. On the other hand, the decision-making, which is the response to the second question about a set of elements with a consumer's choice, TikTok platform is memetic because it induces users to share, and it influenced the music industry in the past and the success of some artists. So also the song of Gailey became a global success. So we go on in this way for deception, for immorality, and for ethics. Moving to the discussion and conclusion of the results, first of all, the three main research questions were responded in this way. Social media washing is a form of misleading actions in the co-creation process on social media because it resulted by the associations related to manipulation, deception, and immorality. And these themes evidenced manipulative practices. In response to research question 2, trust of TikTok users was influenced by the co-creation process because it may cause the likelihood of a negative CSR ethical perception by consumers, and this resulted by the ethics association theme. And the third one is that social media washing may be a mediator for the product co-creation CSR relationship. One, because misleading actions occurred through the co-creation, and this is an outcome of the co-creation association theme. And two, because social media washing may better explain the cause-effect PCC-CSR relationship. In conclusion, from a theoretical perspective, this work wants to create a theoretical conceptualization of what is social media washing. Second, to offer a contribution to future social media washing measurement and scales. And third one, it may better explain the brand contribution to the co-creation and the relationship with the consumer perception of an ethical behavior. As a practical implication, there is evidence for that there is a need for a brand ethical codes of conduct when employing digital marketing strategies. If a brand adopts an ethical marketing approach, this may lead to positive results in terms of user engagement on social media. And at the end, future investigations may involve a larger data collection through empirical analysis to better examine the concept. This was all. Thank you for the attention.
Thank you, Karolina, also for the optimal management of the timing. So perfect. I know that according to our program, we have a question time at the end of the session. I don't know. We'll proceed according to this program. Okay. So thank you, Karolina. Yeah. Now is the time of Angela Rella. She authored a paper with Professor Nicola Raimo, and the paper is titled Waste Management Within Italian Municipalities, Efficiency Level and Its Drivers. Angela, also in your case, 20 minutes for the presentation.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Angela Rella, and I am a PhD student at Nihon University. Today I present this work carried out by Nicola Raimo and me. The title of this work is Waste Management Within Italian Municipalities and Efficiency Level and Its Drivers. Nowadays, words as sustainability, environmental risk, and circular economy are very common. And in the field of circular economy, waste management plays a key role. In fact, waste management is a fundamental pillar of European policies to achieve an efficiency economy, a modern economy that preserves resources and follows the sustainable goals. In fact, in this line, there are important challenges to reducing the waste production and aligning the objective to the circular economy regulation. Notwithstanding this issue playing a key role at national level, municipalities are directly involved in waste management. In fact, in this line, the analysis of efficiency is gaining ground in the municipality performance measurement. Now it's important to give you a definition of efficiency. In fact, according to Rainey, 1996, efficiency represents the ratio between resources employed and the quantity of work produced, respectively inputs and outputs. And in this perspective, efficiency analysis stands for a measure to evaluate the use of local resources and the way in which municipalities manage these resources. Now, notwithstanding the amount of studies in the other context, it is important to study this issue in Italian context, because Italy faces a huge cost for the waste management, and the disposal in landfill are predominant. And these studies wants to aim the following research question. The first research question is, to what extent are the Italian municipalities efficient in terms of waste management, and which geographical area appears most efficient? And the second research question is, what are the drivers that affect waste management efficiency? Now, the interest in public efficiency are growing more and more, and academic contribution has considered, besides the concept of efficiency, the technical to measure the efficiency level, and the analysis of its drivers. In fact, regarding to the technique to measuring the efficiency level, consider the wants to focus their attention on wants focus the attention on the find to optimal value in the combination between input and output, and on the estimation of efficient frontier. According to Charles and et al. In 1978, the most used approach to evaluating the efficiency level is the data envelopment analysis. In our study, we have found the academic literature on waste management efficiency that adopt the data envelopment analysis, and in the second stage we have found the studies that have explored the drivers of waste management. On the right side of the slide, we can see the study that that implement the DIA approach in waste management to measure the waste management efficiency with the use of input and output. Often the input are the waste management cost, and the output are tons or other municipal waste cost. Then in the second part of the slide, there are the study that explore the drivers of efficiency, waste management efficiency, and the efficiency drivers are often the citizens' participation, political ideology, population density, and tourism level. Now, the sample is composed by Italian municipalities, because we know that Italy is divided into three levels: national, regional, and municipal. But municipalities are play a key role in the management and organization of waste collection and waste disposal. The sample is composed by Italian municipalities that have more 40,000 inhabitants in 2019, and that provides all the information to develop analysis. This analysis is divided into two stages. The first stage is the data envelopment analysis, and from this first stage we obtain an efficiency score that we compare in a truncated regression, and in this case we have an environmental variables that, and we measure the effect of these environmental variables on the efficiency score obtained from the first stage. In particular, data envelopment analysis, that is the first stage of my analysis, is a non-parametric technique of efficiency analysis that measures the efficiency by relying on inputs and outputs. In this case, DEA is based on the estimation of DMU, decision-making units, that in which case are the Italian municipalities. These studies will analyze the turning process of waste management expenditure, that are the inputs of our research, into the annual collection of waste per capita, that is the output of this first stage. The orientation choice for this analysis is input oriented, in which we can try to minimize the inputs, and while the outputs are held constant. And these studies implement the variable returns to scale to estimate the returns of the model. And the first stage of this analysis is conducted with the RStudio and the R package. Now there is the descriptive statistic of inputs and outputs. The second stage of the analysis is represented by truncated regression, that is a regression that provides improved statistical inference than ordinary least square. And in this model, we have the dependent variable, that is the efficiency score obtained from the first stage of the analysis, and the independent variable that in this regression we call the environmental variables, that are economic, demographic, and social factors. In fact, we can see the model specification, in which delta is the dependent variable, alpha represents the constant of the model, beta are the coefficients, and epsilon represents the error term. We can see the descriptive statistic of variables. We can see the efficiency score. In this case, efficiency score can range from 0 to 1, and we can see that the mean is very low, is equal to about 0.28. In fact, in this graphical slide, we can see that the total mean, the authors in this work have aggregated the data per region. And we can see the total mean of efficiency score is equal to 0.28, a very low medium level of efficiency. And in the visual map, we can see that the darkest area of have a higher level of efficiency, and the lighter area of map are a lower level of efficiency. In fact, we have calculated the mean of efficiency score per geographical macro area, and the northern Italy is more efficient than the other macro geographical area of Italy. Then this is the second stage of the analysis, and we can see the results of truncated regression. And we have obtained that the unemployment rate variable has a negative and significant impact on waste management efficiency. In fact, lower unemployment rate implies a better working and living condition. This this condition of well-being does not allow the creation of dynamics that can lead to inefficient use of public money. The second interesting result is the impact of council diversity variable that affect positively and significantly the waste management efficiency. In fact, the presence of women tends to achieve common goals, achieve sustainable goals, and increase the effectiveness of council activities and the decision making process. The electoral turnout variable has a positive and significant impact on waste management efficiency. In fact, the high percentage of voters turnout represent a higher level of expectation and trust in the municipal administration, and this increasing citizens' pressure on municipal authorities that to enhance the management of public services and the management of public money. And finally, the tourism variable affects negatively and significantly the waste management efficiency. In fact, these results represent a decline in efficiency within most touristic municipalities. In fact, municipal authorities are forced to employ more resources to counteract the increase in the waste due to the presence of tourism. Now, we can answer to the initially research question. In fact, we can say that the level of waste management efficiency appears low, medium throughout Italy, but in the northern Italian municipalities seems to be more efficient than others. And to answer the second research question, we can say that Italian municipalities with a lower unemployment rate, with a higher percentage of women within council, with a higher percentage of electoral turnout and a lower level of tourism are more perform better than others in terms of waste management efficiency. Now, to conclude, we can present the implication for public managers that firstly should take into account all features in each municipalities. These features are different for each municipality, and public managers must be able to combine and balance this aspect to guarantee the a higher level of efficiency in the field of waste management. And public managers should pledge to increase the citizen engagement to be able to improve the waste management system and to promote the achievement of a higher level of efficiency. Their studies has some limitation. First is based on a data for 1 year period and doesn't take into account the change over time. Second, this study consider only one input and output to build the efficiency score. And the third limitation is based on the exploration and examination of only waste management and not other public services. Thus, further research want to examine the efficiency level of waste management over the years to measure the variation over the years, and to determine different efficiency score with the use of more inputs and outputs, and to analyze the efficiency level of other public services. Thank you for your attention.
Time for the presentation, but also for the management of time in a so very good way. It's now the time of the third paper of our session that is presented by Michele Posa, co-authored with Ivano De Turi. I'm sorry, I'm speaking without microphone. Okay, Michele, prego. So the third paper will be presented by Michele Posa and co-authored by Ivano De Turi, and it is titled Understanding the Role of University Firms' Collaboration in Enhancing Business Model.
So, good afternoon to everyone, and I'm Michele Posa, PhD student here in Rome, and I'm here to present this paper, Understanding the Role of University Firm Collaboration in Enhancing Business Model Innovation Capability with Outside-the-End Mechanisms, the case of Open Challenge by Enterprise, co-authored with Professor Ivano De Turi. So, we can briefly discuss about introduction to background research methodology, finding and discussion, research application, limitations, suggestions for future studies. In order to observe introduction, we can say that the fourth industrial revolution has rapidly increased by the complexity and dynamicity of global competitive scenarios. And this global enterprise with an ecosystem of interdependent innovation. This has also increased new means through which companies can develop and sustain competitive advantage. In this context, business model innovation plays a key role in order to allow firms to create value and consequently to develop a successful business strategic strategy. First, some also implement ground innovation capabilities according to literature, and with an innovation-oriented organizational mindset in order to perform this management process most efficiently. The fourth industrial revolution also leveraged the complexity of innovation processes, as we know, by imposing a radical shift toward the digital ecosystem. Open innovation has then emerged as an enabler for companies to generate and sustain long value perspective. It is important for them to open their internal boundaries to external source of knowledge in order to perform this process effectively. This can be performed through the adoption of outside-in or inside-out approaches. Outside-in practices, as noted by literature, have become increasingly important within the actual scenario, as boosted by the chance to connect various stakeholders as well as physical and virtual sources. The choice of the right stakeholder is essential for the successful of open innovation practices. And according to the same author, the inclusion of the university and high-grade education institution as part of open innovation process can allow to overcome the above discussed challenge. So, to emerge on this scenario, the research question underlined this work. Within the context of University and Collaboration Initiative, how can Open Innovation Initiative can enhance the dynamic capabilities that are useful to implement business model innovation process? With reference to the theoretical background, authors say that to manage business model innovation processes, they require specific knowledge-based capabilities. And in strategic management, those capabilities are identified by T.S. Ole and other authors as the dynamic capabilities. They are mainly divided into three main dimensions. They are sensing capabilities that allow firms to discover and focus on new opportunities. Sizing capabilities that allow firms to exploit new opportunities through research mobilization according to innovation requirements of the design process, and as well as transforming activities that allows firms' innovation team to monitor, reconfigure, and adapt their organizational structure and resources on the basis of the innovation requirements. Several studies have been advanced to understand business model innovation dynamic capabilities to the extent that a new trend into the research emerged as a new topic in business model innovation literature. Deriving from previous research, Frank et al., one between the most widespread research, conducted a study to measure the distinctive dimension of dynamic capabilities for business model innovation, according to the previous background and the classification provided by TC. Since they are divided in sensing capabilities for BMI, sizing capabilities for BMI, and transforming capabilities for business model innovation. Digital transformation has radically changed, as we know, the way to which firms can compete and therefore build on innovation process. There are two main views of innovation. A closed view, which outwardly relates only to the current market and business model of the firm. And there is no possibility to extend them to other market systems. Accordingly, with the open view of the innovation, the knowledge transfer between the firm and external sources takes place along the entire innovation funnel, through different activities. So, open innovation approach can advantage the entire ecosystem involved. University, it is known that played a critical role in open innovation ecosystem by the improvement of such initiatives such as hackathons, business idea competition, and academic spin-off. The research gap we have identified consists into it was not well highlighted. What's the role of digital-oriented university industry open innovation initiative in improving dynamic capabilities for BMI. Studies deeply focus on the resulting benefit for firms in terms of idea quality, innovation level, or also competitive advantage, thus not including an ecosystem perspective. In order to answer to this research question, the study empirically investigates the extent to which digital-oriented and open innovation initiative between firms and university can improve the knowledge of both firms and stakeholders included into the ecosystem in terms of BMI capabilities. We have adopted as theory reference the dynamic capabilities theory developed by TC. As a research method, we employed expert and qualitative approach based on case study methodology following the Yin case study methodology. These include employment of ethnography and semi-structured in-depth interview with case stakeholders. As a research context, we chose Open Challenge Enterprise, an initiative organized and promoted by LUM University and in collaboration with the Association of Young Entrepreneurs of Confindustria Bari. The motivation underlying the research context choice relies on the fact that LUM University is an entrepreneurial university, as demonstrated by the results of the Al-Malaria Report 2020, as well as in reference to the heterogeneity of firms involved in terms of size, industry reference, and members they are also members of the Association of Young Entrepreneurs of Confindustria. For data collection, they are employed multiple methods to ensure triangulation. It mainly follows a two-step data collection process. In the first phase, they are employed secondary data, while in the second phase, they are employed primary data. With relation to the first step, the aim of the phase was to collect information about the overall project and assess its fundamental characteristics as well as scope and objectives. As data collected and secondary data, there were processed documentary information, project report, project description. As sources, there are employed archival records, press release, and web disclosure coming from the different web page of the association involved. The second step aimed to collect information on project phases, actors involved, interaction between actors, and involvement of each actor among project phase. Also, it aimed to collect information on dynamic capabilities developed by students and firm members. As primary data, they were employed interview data, and as sources, they were conducted one-to-one interview session through semi-structured in-depth interview with selected key informants by employee and flexible approach. The process followed the following phases. Plan, according to Boyce and Neal 2006. Plan, development of instrument interview protocol, training of data collectors and data collection. Multiple key informants were identified also in order to avoid scarcity of evidence. 3 rounds of one-to-one interview sets were conducted between May and July 2022. The first round was involved student team members selected more the participant of both first and second edition of the case initiative. The second round involved firm managers and experts who followed students during the development of the project. And the third round was carried out through the involvement of both professors involved in the initiative as well as firm entrepreneurs and experts. Interview structure was developed following Boyce and all and Ryan et al. The interview was carried on for less than an hour. They included 17 open-ended questions for both student and manager expert and 5 open-ended questions for professor manager experts. And in this context, the literature on BMI capabilities, especially the work of Frank et al., was employed as theoretical linchpin for the formulation of the 17 questions, aiming to collect evidence on the BMI dynamic capabilities of both students and firm. Literature on open innovation university industry collaboration programs served as conceptual guide for the development of the 5 open-ended questions. Interview structure was developed for Boyce and all, Lawyer and Ryan all. It was initially set up by experience research context, purpose, reason behind the choice of the interview, and the expected duration. Responded were informed about the employee data, collecting tool, data processing procedure. Data were immediately summarized after the interview, and the final project main result were scrutinized to extract insights and derive implication. As regards the final sample composition, was composed by 16 of the out of the 39 students included into the 8 selected teams, 2 for each team. We obtained a response rate of 15%. They also include 8 members between firm managers and experts selected in order to obtain data from firms belonging to different sections and of different sides, and in order to reflect the regional composition of the case initiative participants. They also include interview with 2 Lund University professors. For data analysis, there were employed 3 steps inductive and iterative process, including preparation of the overall, collect data, disaggregation, and categorization to a descriptive encoding process. Then they performed reduction organization according to the reference context, and following standard 1989, interaction between both primary and secondary data was performed in order to obtain a general framework. What are the data analysis phase outcome? The first relates to the organization of the collected evidence in terms of BMI capabilities into the 3 aggregate dimension and relative subdimension: sensing capabilities for BMI, sizing capabilities for BMI, and transforming capabilities for BMI. The second outcome was referred to the development of a framework that integrated the phases of the open challenge enterprise into the theoretical ground of the open innovation funnel. Then they were defined links between the process of open challenge enterprise and the development of BMI capabilities among the components of university firm ecosystem. With regard to findings, we can it emerged that Open Challenge by Enterprise is an open innovation initiative between Lund University and the Italian Association of the Young Entrepreneurs of Confindustria. It promotes a business idea challenge between teams composed by university students. They aim to active virtuous process of university film contamination to allow the development of students' entrepreneurial spirit, creativity, and entrepreneurial culture, as well as to design a digital innovation process of a pool and firm business model based on different innovation challenges advanced by firm managers. The first edition was held in 2021 regarding business fields such as smart technologies, retail, marketing, and communication. The same was repeated also for the second edition, held in 2022 from March to May with the add of the agri-food field. It involved 114 students, 30 project ideas presented, 40 innovation challenges, and 40 firms associated to the young entrepreneurs of Confindustria. Team composition was made by following a heterogeneity of background and entrepreneurial skills of students, and they were composed at least by 4 people between managers and experts. Evaluation criteria are divided between technical criteria and communication and interaction. The analysis allowed to identify 6 different categories of stakeholders between students, professors, entrepreneurs, project sponsor, expert, and institution. Between the entrepreneur, we have the firm managers that were being involved into the initiative. The Lund was the main project sponsor. The expert are firm members that collaborated with the team in order to develop the innovation initiative. The institution include both Lund and the Italian Association of Young Entrepreneurs of Confindustria. We can move on to the process of Open Challenge by Enterprise. It starts from the call of project, where the Loom gets in touch with the Italian Association of Young Entrepreneurs, and it explains the aims of the initiative, the possibility for the associated firms to get involved into the initiative. Then projects are sent by Enterprise to Loom, and then it is performed a project selection. Subsequently to this phase, the challenge is launched. After this, the team are composed in by involving the university student and university profession. Then they are immersed into a boosting phase to let the student to be immersed into the entrepreneurial context. Then the phase of expanding follows, in where teams, after have understand the dynamics of the entrepreneurial context and innovation challenge, can perform a process of design of the business model innovation. Then it followed a phase of criteria selection and feedback by involving experts as team mentors, university professor, and university student. This phase allows students to assess the strength and weakness of their idea in order to perform the finalization of their business model innovation project. The last phase of this section relates to the prototyping phase, in which the project idea is designed in accordance to the employment of digital transformation methodologies and tools that students learned during the lessons, as well as business model innovation instruments and tools that students, which methodological techniques and concepts have already learned during the course. Then, during the final workshop, it is performed a pitch session, followed by a feedback phase and the awarding. During this phase, the best project is awarded according to the criteria previously mentioned. The Open Challenge by Enterprise concludes here with the awarding phase, but the process moves on with the project feasibility assessment, in which entrepreneurs and expert team members and the firm expert consult each other to verify the project feasibility of the presented idea. Then, if this is validated, the step move on to the project development, and it is highlighted as optional. Then, it followed the process of project management. In relation to the development of BMI dynamic capabilities, I try to summarize the general conclusion, and we can move in deep with our Q&A section. Findings has demonstrated that the involvement of the students, of both students and managers and firm members into the Open Challenge by Enterprise initiative has allowed to the development of the dynamic capabilities relating to the sensing, the sizing dimension. The phase of the project that mainly enhanced the development of the capabilities are referred to the immersion, expanding, criteria selection and feedback, and prototyping. For what concerns the transforming capabilities, it emerged that they are the development process was not completed at all, and this is in line with the theoretical concept underlying this phase, because as we know from the literature, transforming capabilities can be developed when the project itself is developed and the subsequent phase of management is performed. So we move to conclusion. And the data has allowed also to classify the entire process into 4 main phases, relating to the inspiration dimension, the research and the ideation, evaluation and development. We can see, as if we refer to the innovation funnel provided by structured by Chesbrook, we know that Open Challenge by Enterprise posts itself in the first part of a traditional innovation funnel. So it's meant to develop and enhance the research activity. And this is in line also with the business model innovation design process. In fact, we can link inspiration, research, innovation, and evaluation to the phases of mobilize, understand, and design that are highlighted by Oswald and Pigner in their book of 2010. The phase of development, it will occur also only in a subsequent phase. So, with reference to the theoretical and managerial contribution, we can say that this research is one of the early attempts to investigate how open innovation initiative can enhance both the generation and the exploitation of the dynamic capabilities for BMI within an open innovation ecosystem. It could answer also to several suggestions provided by government and institutional bodies, guidelines, and programs such as the UN 2030 Agenda for the Sustainable Development, that which promote the entrepreneurial development of local regions. Furthermore, the study provides insight about the enabling role of Entrepreneurial University in promoting both the social and economic growth of the local community in terms of entrepreneurial attitude and industrial innovation. Moreover, it provides insight for managers and entrepreneurs in line with previous work. As example, Secundo e altri et al. 2017-2020 about the enabling role of young students' creativity as a key resources for the third business model innovation, as well as highlighting the importance to create grander partnership and collaboration programs with high-grade educational institute. As regards the limitation future research, we can say that they may refer to the explorative and case study-centered nature of the studies. Future contribution can examine similar but also not equal initiative by adopting an analysis focus on the digital transformation dynamic capabilities, which result from the development of the open innovation processes. Moreover, the focus it was posed on the design of a business model innovation through the adoption of a digital innovation background on the ongoing initiative. Further contribution might analyze also similar initiative in other contexts, such as other faculty department, engineering, medicine, in case of hackathon, and idea competition. Moreover, they can aim to examine the long-term contribution of the involvement. Another limitation results in the not possible generalization of the finding, and future work might consider the employment of quantitative approach. I thank you for your kind attention.
Thank you, Michele, for your presentation, also for the management of the time in your case. I think that is a very great performance for our young colleague. Thank you. So now we will start with the question time. I think that we could follow the same order that we had with the presentation. And so now I would ask to Karolina, and I don't know, all colleagues will be here available, but I will ask to Karolina, we would ask if is there any question about or comment or suggestion about the paper presented by Karolina and co-authored by with Professor Angeloantonio Russo, that was titled Research Project Exploring Social Media Washing and its Impact on Corporate Social Responsibility. Karolina, I don't know if you want to reach me. So guys, it's not an interview, it's not an exam, of course, so we are here to reflect together and to put together ideas for the future development of the research. Of course, you are talents that are working, they are working for their future, their academic future, their future in research, and so I think that all the comments, but also the idea that you can have, and that the presentation have inspired you can be useful for the future development of the research of Karolina and of course of all the other colleagues that will follow. Unfortunately, we were not present during the first presentation. Yeah. Prego.
Funziona? Ok, perfetto. So you have studied TikTok, and it is a very new trend which is emerging in the last few years. And my question is, do you think that as the tendencies you have highlighted in your working paper will emerge in the next few years, the heterogeneity in the inputs, because everyone can publish on TikTok, and the inputs you observe in your paper will become always more heterogeneous, may lead to outputs to be standardized, and so you have to observe so many different output on TikTok, so many different users publishing their ideas, their contents, and you have to, in the research you are trying to perform, standardize the result, because you have to categorize also heterogeneous inputs. And how do you think this could be possible?
So in the first step of this exploration, it was important to conceptualize the social media washing, since we have already talked a lot about greenwashing or gender washing or social washing and so on. For the future, in order to perform a standardization of the measurement of this new phenomenon, I believe that it would be appropriate to observe and analyze the phenomenon from a consumer side perspective, and maybe by the means of interviews or surveys, because of course brands will never say they are performing misleading behaviors or they are in some way manipulating their marketing practices on social media. So of course it would be very difficult to examine quantitatively the phenomenon from a brand side perspective. But the perceptions of consumers, both through a survey but also through another web-based analysis based on big data, for example, may help to discover other similar phenomena that I believe that are occurring, but it's very hard to expose them.
Thank you. Is there any other question? Prego. Riuscite? Sì, passate voi.
Okay, I have just a methodological curiosity. I've seen that you use the qualitative approach. Yes. And in the qualitative approach, one of the main quality of the qualitative approach is the triangulation of the data, or the methodological triangulation. Have you think some triangulation that you could improve in your paper to better qualify your qualitative approach?
Well, I think that the second step of this work may be to, first of all, define a measure for social media washing, and then, of course, perform an analysis in terms of relationship and moderation, also mediation of social media washing with these two constructs, which are CSR and product co-creation. But in order to do this, I believe that we can take some measurement scales from other kind of misleading behavior, but it would be necessary, first of all, to understand the peculiarities of this new behavior, since it occurs on social media and the dynamics are different by the other kind of misleading behaviors, because in the other cases, for example, in greenwashing, it was possible to detect and measure thanks to the claims that brands were performing in their institutional communications. In this case, since it involves a co-creation process, it's a little bit more difficult to measure the phenomenon. So, first of all, we need to measure the construct itself and then to perform a triangulation.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Nicola. Any other comment? No? Okay. Just I want to make a little premise. I take note about during all the three presentations, and what I will go to share with you is just some advices or point of view, critical point of view, but just with the idea, with the aim to inspire future research or to explore. Absolutely. So it's just I want to make this premise. So first of all, you spoke about the social media washing, and also you referred to the greenwashing and also the diversity washing, and I think so in this case I think that you are introducing a new very interesting interesting concept, that is the social media washing, that instead is the tool, the mean by which the company can achieve greenwashing, diversity washing, ethical washing. So of course I think that you have more to highlight the value of this kind of contribution that is going to operate and to provide a larger framework in which the greenwashing, that is also a well debated now and actual topic, the diversity washing, the ethical washing can be put inside. Okay, so this is the first suggestion, that is to inspire and to work more for extending the well-defined the concept of social media washing with the idea to more clarify how all the other elements associated to the usage and with the practice of the washing nowadays can take place. Okay, so this is the first one. A second one, in your theoretical premise, you mentioned the service dominant logic.
Yes.
I think that is a very grateful and also powerful field of inspiration, because in your empirical analysis you focused the attention of an intangible product, because of course you analyzed, but I think that also in this case the adoption of this framework in your theoretical background, in your theoretical framework, can offer you the possibility to explore how the social media impacted on the perception, the ethical and all the other elements of the washing that can be achieved with tangible product in the different field. And so this is another important aspect. About the analysis of data, thanks to the question of all the colleagues, you clarified that of course in your future and the advancement of your research you want to explore the big data techniques that of course can be very useful. Since I tested on my personal life, because I made some research in the field of digital marketing, also some old research, as I mentioned you during the break before the presentation. So I invite you also to consider another important methodological approach that offer you the possibility to go in deeper even if you are working in online environment. That is the ethnography. It's a well-practiced methodology with more than 20 years of experience, so it's a well-updated technology that is very useful, because what we experimented, my field of research is in the digital transformation, so I am familiar with the techniques of the big data analytics, but what we risk to lose with the big data analytics is the personal, the identity of the people within your community, while the marketing, of course, is very careful about this aspect. So I suggest, also in an experimental way, to mix from one side techniques, also big data that make statistics, quantitative statistics, and when you work in the social media, of course, they are important, but with this exploration that offer you the possibility to go in deeper for understanding what Karolina is saying, because for me it is important, not only to aggregate the data, but also to go in deeper in the comprehension of which is your feedback.
Because marketing is all about meanings.
Absolutely. Not only meanings, but meanings of the single person.
Yes.
Okay. What else? I'm not so sure about the formulation of the first research question, because I think that is not the case that provide you the reply to your research question, because the research question is what is social media washing, but the case is not. So of course you take inspiration, but how social media washing can be implemented, okay? So this is, I think, this is the larger question of your probable future research work, but I suggest to reformulate this kind of thing. And that's all. In all the cases, I really appreciated your work.
Thank you.
You provide inspiration and a new idea, and so also interesting hold remembering, and so I thank you for the presentation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, if we don't have any other question for Karolina, that I really thank you for the presentation done of her paper. Now is the time of Angelarella, that she presented the paper titled Waste Management within Italian Municipality, Efficiency Level and its Driver. And the paper, as I told before, was co-authored with Professor Nicola Raimo. Questions? Yeah. No, I think you have just to wait few seconds because the technical support will provide us solution. Thank you. Ci siamo? È acceso. È acceso. Yeah, it works. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Angela, for sharing with us your interesting analysis, especially in the part related to the efficiency. So a question about the methodology that you use in this analysis. Why you choose you adopt a truncated model instead of a general OLS analysis?
Yeah, because from the DIA analysis we can obtain a score that can present some errors, and with truncated regression there are some value of dependent variable that can are below or above certain thresholds. And these values are systematically excluded from the sample. And in this way, the analyses are more clean or linear.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Your name?
Vincenzo.
Vincenzo. Thank you, Vincenzo, for your question. Other comments? Karolina. Just 1 second, because probably it's better we use the microphone.
Do you think that the cultural aspect may affect the efficiency that you analyzed in relation to your main object of study?
I can understand the first part.
The cultural aspect and dimension. So, do you think it is a variable that may affect the efficiency analysis and may it change across cultures and across countries?
Yeah, I can think that this research is different from the different cultures, because in particular waste management is regulated by a municipal law that can't used in the external context, and then this research is possible to make this research in other countries, but with different methodology and different aspect from different aspects. Ti sento lo stesso. Ti sento.
Adesso è spento.
È acceso, okay. And what about the side of people? So not of municipalities, but the usage, the habits of life of people, and their behavior, and how their behavior may affect the data related to efficiency.
Yeah,
do you consider to analyze this side of?
Yeah, this is we can move the first step in this research, and the first perspective is from public managers and municipal authorities, but in the future.
It's a good idea for the future exploration.
Yeah.
Yeah, the citizen happiness. Or well-being of people inside the municipality.
But the aim is to make a performance measurement of the municipalities.
Okay. Other question? Yes, I see that the colleague.
It's working.
It's working.
For me, I don't have a question, but I have a comment. As I see the difference of municipality between the north and the south, so I think that will be better to include more recommendation to be understandable for the south, and to send it to the whole municipality to see the results that maybe will be useful for them, or maybe will have some points that to be efficiency like the other one.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comment or question, curiosity? No? Okay, so as usual, the premise is the same. So also in this case, I really appreciated the work and also its evidences, but also the future speculation that can arise from this research. Clearly, starting from the research question, it's clear that you have in mind a very larger study, because you focus the attention on the municipalities, of course, the nature and the dimension of the municipalities at the different sites can offer you the possibility to replicate the study in a very different way. So I don't know if probably for this kind of paper, I don't know if it will be addressed toward a journal, probably to specify that we are focusing the attention on the small, medium municipality. Or I don't know, because otherwise the expectation about the evidence from all the municipalities is not well supported by the evidence of a sample that is exactly. So I don't know if it's possible to think about this research question. In all the cases, I'm sure that it will offer you the possibility of very large replication opportunities and speculation. You mentioned it in your premise, the circular economy. Clearly, the waste management is one of the critical topics and the most actual topics within the circular economy, but also with the same idea and with the same logic goal to provide you idea for future research. I invite you also to consider which is the impact of the three critical point of the critical principle of the circular economy on your waste management, because all the critical points that are reduce, recycle, and also reuse can offer you the possibility to revise and the model about the waste management, because the waste management, of course, can be addressed toward the efficiency, and probably in this case you have the pillar of the reduction can impact on this aspect, but also the recycle is very critical on the waste management. So I invite you to consider also this element. About your empirical investigation, I'm sure that probably for timing question, I don't know, the premises, I don't know, but I'm sure I'm very surprised by the presence of the unemployment rate as one of the factors that impact on the waste management. With the same logic, I also think that probably another elements can be considered in your metrics, that is, for example, the presence of infrastructure. If a small town have not the infrastructure for the waste or for the differentiation, probably this is critical more, I think, than the unemployment. Surely you will have your background in the literature, so I'm sure that you have your solid background about the impact and the relevance of the unemployment rate, but also this aspect. As also is very surprising, but is very original, the consideration about the electoral turnout. So how in this way this is going to impact. And another element that is about the North and the South, that was also the curiosity made by the colleague, is about the consideration, I don't know if it is weighted, the evidence that you collected, because clearly if you consider a sample of city with 40,000 of people, probably from Rome to us, the number of this city is lower than the number of city that is upstairs. And with the same logic, also by considering the infrastructure on North, if you think, for example, the infrastructure that can be available in Milan or in Turin can be different probably from the infrastructure and the strategic technologies that can be useful for the efficiency waste management in the South. The final remark that I want to give you, because it's an opportunity that is nurtured, and it is open to all the Loom scholar, but researcher community, is the participation to the Italian platform for the circular economy. The University Looms has undersigned the participation to this important initiative, that is an initiative undertaken by the Italian government with the creation of the Italian stakeholder platform for the circular economy, that is the mirror platform of the European stakeholder platform. We have the management. I take this time for also inform all the colleagues that we are coordinator of a working group of the platform that is focused on the eco-design issues and the circular economy business model. So I think that can be of inspiration, but also invite you to follow the activity, all of you to follow, because it is very free and without any fee to pay and without any kind of, so it's very free, absolutely free, the activity, because one of the working group of the Italian platform is about the key performance indicators. So probably, and you can find also there some elements that can be updated, because the platform is populated by company, but also from university, research center, a big corporation. Okay?
Yes, of course.
So Angela, thank you very much, and congratulations for the work done. Thank you. Michele. So the third paper that we had the pleasure to hear, to follow the presentation, was presented by Michele Posa, co-authored with Professor Ivano De Turi, and was about, as all of us remember, about the role of university firms collaboration in enhancing business model. Please, you have the floor for your question and curiosity. Ragazzi, can you the microphone? Okay, perfect. Both of you, thank you. Thank you for the...
Okay, it's fine. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed the presentation. And I have two questions to ask to you. The first one is, perhaps I missed that, is could you just elaborate a little more on your initial hypothesis? Because you can reformulate research, but what were the expectations at the onset of your research?
Okay.
And secondly, when you assess the results, have you established a distinction between outputs and outcomes? Because this, in terms of social impact, is very important.
Okay, thank you for your question, sir. So the idea, the initial idea, is to establish if this university industry collaboration initiative can improve the development of the innovation, dynamic capabilities for the business model innovation. And according to the literature, this occurs when there is an ecosystem of reference in a specific context, that in this case it was open challenge by enterprise. And the link is that the ongoing process and the various phases of the initiative of the Open Challenge Enterprise can develop to the sensing, sizing, and transforming. As you know, as you well know, it is not was a specific. It was not highlighted how this process is developed, and I appreciate your question. I clarify this. So, according to the research, we take as example the organizational ambidexterity, or to make another good focus, we can refer to the tools for designing BM that relates to the sizing dimension of dynamic capabilities. As we have seen, the process includes three main phases that students and that both students and managers and firm experts performs together, that are immersion, expanding, criteria selection, feedback, and prototyping. During these phases, students have employed typical instruments of business model innovation, not only with reference to practical tools, but also methodological tools. According with the course they attend here in Lund University, that is based, the course of business model innovation, that is based on the textbook of Osvaldo Pigner, Create a Business Model. And so, as I said, they perform various, they employ various techniques, such as visual thinking, prototyping, designing, customer insights, as well as brainstorming activity, research, market analysis, research analysis. And the linking point is this, that they then applied also the business model design process tools, such as value proposition canvas, business model canvas, empathy map value. So there are these two dimensions, academical approach, that is the lesson part, and the empirical application of these methodologies while developing the initiatives. So I think that I have answered to the first part of your question. In relation to the second part, the difference between output and outcomes, if I understand well. So we can refer as outcomes as the development of the dynamic capabilities of BMI for both students and experts as well as managers and interview supporters. As outputs of the initiatives, they mainly consist into the design of a project of a business model innovation idea. So at the end, as we see during the pitch session that is developed here in Lund, students during the 2 months of project work, they develop with through the employment of the instruments previously described, they create a project pitch, a project presentation that includes also all the documental information about the project. So we can refer to this as a guideline for the development of the following business project that will be performed in a second time during the development phase. So I hope I clarify better. So.
You have just probably an additional comment.
Prova? Okay. So just to answer the second question about outcomes and outputs, we, in this phase of this study, we understand that the outcomes for the first part is the creation of new idea, both for enterprises and students. The second one about the outputs is the development. The development of this idea is the second phase when entrepreneurs and managers try to evaluate and assess this idea to development. And if they use it for real innovation than business, it could be for us and other outputs as is university, where I think that the second part for us is not so easy to monitor because we lose our control after each session and the awarding of the student. So the second one is so interesting, but for university it's not so easy to monitoring that and evaluate after 1, 2, 3 years the impact of this project. At the moment we have only 1 year with the first experience and a few months for the second, and we can just wait for 1 or 2 years to understand if the first Open Innovation Challenge has some outputs in terms of development of these ideas.
Let me just clarify one point. I think it's a little bit different, the relationship. Because the outputs is what you can identify probably in the short term. They are very practical instruments of collaboration. The outcomes is a complex long-term impact. And these are much more difficult to monitor. It takes time. But you cannot say that you have a proper and thorough assessment if you just measure the output. So this is we have to be aware of the limitations of assessment, because outcomes have to do with really changing social practices, new ways of collaboration, etc. And this takes time. So it's probably too early to assess outcomes still.
In this case, could be more referred to the relationship with the company and the long-term relationship with the company and also the university, or the future professional opportunity for the students that will take part.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I have a just general kind, this is not question, but just comments maybe, and curiosity. I mean, you mentioned many times the university industry collaboration, and that is strongly featured in your research. Is there any? I presume there's an assumption that the collaboration is taking place within certain geographical boundary. For example, loom and industries around loom in this region, isn't it? Am I right in understanding?
Yeah.
Right,
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Professor. Yeah, of course.
So that is kind of unspoken assumption.
Yeah, it's if I understand your question right, and this is one of the focus point of the third mission of our university.
Right. Okay,
as our rector previously mentioned.
Okay.
So there is in this year, Loom is increasingly involved into the promotion of university industry collaboration programs.
Yeah.
And this is just to put together all the points. It is not only performed through this kind of university industry collaboration initiative, but also with through our academic spin-off that are Loom K-Hub, that aims to promote an acceleration process for startup and new ventures, as well as the other major academic spin-off that is Loom Enterprise, highly involved into the digitalization and digital transformation of local enterprise. So, and Loom, but I like to say Southern Italy, because so many other realities such as Università del Salento also are always more increasing involvement in order to pursue the mission. So we dream to do always better.
Well, I don't want to question the wisdom of setting your research within certain geographical, boundary. I mean, there's a given starting point of your research, but I'm just wondering whether there's any need to limit the industry and university collaborations within certain geographical boundary. I mean, the collaboration can happen with anybody all over the world. I mean, the world is very, very broad, and there may be many parties, universities, industries, small and medium-sized businesses, for example, in Korea, for example, in Vietnam, which might want to have a very close collaboration in terms of employment, investing, in a variety of forms with Loom. Of course, there are cultural barriers, language barriers. There's a special distance. But if you really look forward to the knowledge economy and the fourth industrial revolution, then the virtual connection is much more important than geographical collaboration within certain spatial boundary, I think. And really, it's a matter of finding potential collaborators in China, in Vietnam, and South Korea, Japan. There may be so many people with money but do not know how to spend the money, you know. And there may be companies who might want to employ the graduates of your university. So I think really you do not have to limit your vision within certain geographical boundary or even national boundary.
No, absolutely. If I can reply, as component of the third mission office of this university, we have not a geographical limitation in the working for the collaboration industry university. As you, Professor, you remember also yesterday during the round table, we have NTT Data that, of course, clearly, but it is a multinational Japanese company. So absolutely, we have not this geographical criteria for selecting the company. No, we are completely open, and we are working and looking for collaboration with national companies, international companies, of course, so they are welcome, and we have a lot of collaboration with this kind of company. If I can, I want just to justify one thing, but is outside from the research. Of course, the development of this kind of project, that are educational project, need the geographical proximity, because we need to have as Michele exposed, the presence of the entrepreneur and the manager in the class. We have the class that go in the company to make training session, to make a working session together. So in this case, clearly this kind of educational project are more influenced by the geographical proximity, but is not an exclusion criteria, absolutely not, even if it is more easier to interact in presence, with the company and with the manager inside the company.
There's one more comment. I mean, if you want to go beyond a certain national boundary for collaboration, then I think that there should be certain liberal arts curriculum should be added to the existing ones. For example, cultural education, language education, so that, the management studies alone may not be able to do it. It should be done as a whole in an educational package in this university. Otherwise, it may not happen. Only the regional collaboration will happen.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for your suggestion. Any other comment or question by the colleagues? Are you tired? No. No, non siete stanchi. No. Okay, so with the same logic of the previous presentation, I will also take my notes, and so I will be happy to share also with you. First of all, thanks for the interesting presentation and also the good summary of the research done, even if I know that is a very complex project that you have attended and followed. Two very small point. Surely your study, mainly for what concerns the empirical analysis, offered a good representation of the open innovation processes that haven't taken place during the initiative, and also of the ecosystem perspective. But in your theoretical premises, you mentioned also the dynamic capability. I think that, as in the research of the other colleague, also in this case, if I can suggest, because it's a topic close to my research activity, the theory and the field about the dynamic capabilities can offer you very large speculation, because at the moment I think that also the evidences that you presented are not so clearly focused on dynamic capabilities. More focused and clearly focused, so you well exposed the open innovation processes that have been performed and also the ecosystem perspective. But the speculation and the focus on the dynamic capabilities, I think that can represent a future field for more and interesting investigation, okay? Because it could ask you to go in deep and within the business model, to understand how your critical resources cannot become a core rigidities. So each of us that are familiar with the theories about the innovation management, we know that the dynamic capabilities are the solution to evaluate. And so I think that this is an invitation to consider more the exploitation of the focus about the dynamic capabilities.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
And the second one is about the Entrepreneurial University that you mentioned. And so the archetype of the Entrepreneurial University and also the theory about the Entrepreneurial University is rich of elements, of theoretical elements about the characteristics, the features that are useful for identifying Entrepreneurial University. In your, probably for question of timing, in your presentation you mentioned only the rate employment, that probably is the less relevant for an Entrepreneurial University. Because if you mention, for example, the number of your students that become entrepreneurs, is more relevant for the Entrepreneurial University, or if you mention the number of agreements that you have. So I think that it can be also in this case clarified and better exploited in the future research. And another element that is also for future investigation, you referred to the first edition of the project and to the second, even if at the end the evidences are about the second, but you mentioned also the number of the first. So in the future research, your case study can be also enriched by a longitudinal analysis, because you have a first edition, a second edition, and surely you are working for the third edition. So of course this is another element that can be better evaluated and better used for the future development of your activity of research. Okay? So thank you. I really enjoyed this session. I really thank you, Karolina, Angela, and Michele, surely also their co-authors and tutors, but of course I'm grateful to these young colleagues for the work done, for the passion in their work and their activity, and mainly I thank you also the people that have been with us during this session for the interest and also for the useful question that they offered to our attention, that I'm sure will be used and for the value creation in your research. Okay? So thanks a lot and enjoy the continuous activity of this conference.